Okay. You ready? Let's do this. You're listening to Explore Magazine's Live the Adventure podcast. This is the podcast that delves deep into the outdoors, will inspire, inform, and get you stoked to explore. And I'm your host, David Webb. Hi, and welcome to episode 17 of Explore Magazine's Live the Adventure podcast. I'm your host, David Webb. What load do you carry? Is it, at times, too heavy to lift? How do you balance a yearning for adventure with what can seem like an ever-building load of responsibilities? Parenthood, career, your mental health. Do you ever look back to simpler times and wish you were there? And what role does outdoor adventure play in your personal growth and perhaps the development of your family? Heady topics, right? Well, don't worry, my guests are good at making this stuff fun. Today, I'm talking to Tessa Treadway and Izzy Lynch. They are British Columbia-based pro skiers and mothers. Izzy, along with her sister Zoya Lynch, recently made a documentary called Motherload. The film follows Izzy and Tessa as they wrangle with topics like grief, personal growth, and a yearning for adventure, all framed around family life and the load they must carry as mothers to guide their families through the life they're striving for. The documentary is available for free on YouTube. It's a 14-minute film that's at times comical, at times gut-wrenching, at times inspiring as it looks at the subjects like loss. Tessa lost her husband, famed skier Dave Treadway, to a backcountry accident, and Izzy's marriage dissolved, a loss of a different kind, as well as just the absurd reality of getting a family full of young kids outdoors and skiing, endless amounts of gear and tears and diapers and snacks, all for what? Is it worth it? Well, let's jump into a conversation with Tessa Treadway and Izzy Lynch to find out. Tessa Treadway and Izzy Lynch, welcome to Explore Magazine's Live the Adventure podcast. So happy you're here. I'm really excited to talk to you. So I'm wondering if you could introduce yourself to our listeners. We'll start with you, Tessa.
Hi, my name is Tessa Treadway. I'm a skier and a mom of 3 little boys, and I'm happy to be here.
And Izzy.
My name's Izzy Lynch, and I too am a skier. I have 1 little boy, and I also work for Protect Our Winters Canada as a program director for climate advocacy within the outdoor industry.
Nice. That's a great organization. I've communicated with them quite a bit, especially when they first came up into Canada. I was really glad to see. I saw that you were on the list when I was doing my research as well. And now, Tessa, we were just talking about this. You're in Golden, and Izzy, you're in Revelstoke, 2 big ski towns. For sure. I was just saying that I actually haven't skied Revelstoke Resort yet. I know I should have by now, but Kicking Horse in Golden is my favorite of all. And I don't know if there's any rivalry between you two on that, but I'll have to go into Revelstoke and then compare.
There's a bit of a town rivalry for sure. You should come out. I'll show you around.
Sure. Awesome. I'm there. As I asked both of you to introduce yourselves, you both started by saying you are a skier right out of the gate. It's fair to say both of your lives have been impacted and shaped by skiing in a big way. So wondering, we'll start with you, Tessa. How and why has skiing made such a big impact on your life?
Good question. I think from a very young age, I've just fell in love with skiing, and I've kind of shaped the rest of my decisions and the rest of my life around spending lots of time skiing, because that's where I'm the happiest. I love it. And now that's where I see my kids are the happiest too. So it's kind of been a natural thing to continue to ski all the time. I just got off a ski hill right now, actually, to come and connect with you. But the more time we spend skiing, the more time that we have fun.
So it's just your happy place. And you're in Golden, like we said. Are you from there, or are you from somewhere else originally?
No, I grew up in Quebec.
Okay.
And my parents ran a ski school at a little hill called Glen Mountain. And from the time I was 2 years old, that's where I spent every weekend, every time my parents could. We were all at the ski hill, and that was kind of our family's thing. That's what we did, and that's what we connected around. And my parents were committed to skiing, and I think they just passed on the love for skiing, the love for being outside. You know, I was just thinking about it today. I just said to my friend that I was going up the gondola with, what the heck would we do if we didn't ski in the winter? I think we would just hate the winter. Like, I feel so thankful that we have something that allows us to be outside all winter, like all day, all winter. And that's so healthy, and that obviously we love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's a funny thought to think that this thing that is your happy place, it's like, sounds like it's basically in your DNA, and it makes you love winter, that without it it would be a complete 180. Like, you'd hate winter, you'd be waiting for mountain bike season or something like that. But it completely changed your outlook on an entire season. That's interesting.
Totally. I don't know what I would. Yeah, I don't know. We just have so much fun playing there.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I guess I'd just go surfing.
Yeah.
I'd probably move.
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've chosen to live where you live for reasons, right? And what about you, Izzy? How has skiing shaped your life?
Oh man, skiing has totally shaped my life. My parents are both from Eastern Canada, and they moved to Calgary right before I was born, just to be closer to the mountains. So I grew up just like completely in the mountains as much as we could. My parents worked in Calgary, and we would go up on the weekends. I grew up ski racing. I started ski racing at a young age and fell absolutely in love with that. And then when I was 9 years old, my parents bought into a backcountry ski lodge just outside of Golden.
Mm.
So that was kind of my immersion into like backcountry skiing and just being totally immersed in the mountains. And that has completely shaped my identity and who I am, I think, those experiences. And as soon as I finished school and finished university, I knew I wanted to be living somewhere where there was skiing all around me. And so I moved to Revelstoke before I was even done my last class at university. And I've been here ever since. And it's just completely shaped where I live, how I spend my time, my career. And yeah, it's a huge part of my life.
Now, I saw in the documentary, it's very quickly mentioned that you perhaps met on a chairlift. Did I understand that correctly? Like, you actually, the two of you who are now very good friends and have been for quite a while, is what my understanding. Skiing actually bonded you in that way as well?
Yeah, I think, well, Izzy, tell me if you have a different memory, but I think we met during a ski press ski test in Whistler one spring during like the Whistler Telus Festival.
Yeah. And actually I have like a very strong memory of us going, we were there testing skis, and then I think we were done testing, or we were out on the skis or something, and I was going up the chairlift with you and Dave, and we were just kind of getting to know each other. And that was like it. That was the beginning of our friendship. We had some awesome runs together. We're like, oh, we should be friends. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. I remember thinking, whoa, Izzy skis really fast. And I still think that every time I ski with Izzy, I'm like, holy smokes, she's still so fast.
That's awesome. How long ago was that?
Was that, I want to say like 2009, 2008, 2009.
2008 or 2009. Yeah, probably 2009.
Wow, yeah. So it's interesting that you mentioned you were there in at the Telus Ski and Snowboard Festival. You're there doing some tests, and you're both accomplished skiers, accomplished big mountain skiers. And I want to talk about how does it differ today? How does your skiing life differ today versus the way it was in 2009 and before that? Izzy, you can start.
Good question. It's been an evolution. I think at that time when we met, we were just our careers were just blossoming. So I think I had just got my first sponsor, and, we were getting all these opportunities to go on trips and shoot with photographers, and still doing a few competitions here and there. Just that drive and obsession with being on the mountain was so strong. And we just had all the time in the world to dedicate to being on our skis every day. Life changes as time goes on, and you gain more responsibilities, and definitely with having children is the biggest shift you'll ever experience in life, I think. And so now, time is more restricted for travel, and for kind of pursuing skiing at that same level. But I'd say it's still such a huge part of our lives, in that now we're getting out there with our kids and teaching them to ski and showing them our love for the sport, while still doing some of the sponsor sponsor stuff and shooting and filming a little bit. And so, yeah, it's definitely a balance. And I don't find myself, you know, in the mountains in the same way as much as before, but I still am on my skis a lot and I'm really grateful for that.
And it's more of a shared experience now because of your kid.
Yeah. And like my weekends now, it's like Saturday, Sunday, kind of on the bunny hill. We're just like kind of branching out from that, going up the bigger chairs and stuff like that. And it's fun. I always say like parenthood is really cool because it makes you really nostalgic for your own childhood. And it makes you, you know, you want to give your kids the same opportunities you had and show them the same things that made you love the sport or love a certain experience. And it also makes you really think about the future too, which, it's just this interesting kind of balance and thing. It pulls you in two different directions a little bit. Mm-hmm.
It has changed and been so many different things. It feels like skiing has like a life of its own, which is really cool. Or my relationship with skiing kind of has a life of its own. When Izzy and I first met, I was skiing like 120 or 150 days a winter. And I spent a lot of seasons just like skiing every day and with no other distractions or no other, like that was my priority. And I was skiing and competing and taking photos and filming and like skiing for myself. Having kids has been, it's actually been awesome. Like to go, I felt like I really maximized my time. I don't feel like I missed out on anything. I skied so much. And so I sometimes hear when people have kids, like maybe they feel like they didn't ski enough or they're always missing out on powder days or whatever. But when I had Casper, I felt very ready to move into that new season, a new transition, and skiing became a totally different thing for me. And I remember thinking not the first winter was when he was a little baby. I didn't ski very much, a little bit. And then when he was a year and a half, I started him skiing and he skied probably like 70 or 80 days that season with me.
Wow.
And I still think that was probably one of my most fun winters of all the seasons I've had skiing. That was one of my most fun because we just had a blast together. Like he was my little sidekick and he got so good, except when he'd fall asleep on the chairlift or fall asleep while skiing. But we just had so much fun together. And it was this whole new part of skiing that I hadn't discovered. It had always just been for myself. And then all of a sudden it was like the focus had changed and I was pouring all that love and excitement, but into skiing, but also into my son, who I love so much. And it was a super special thing. And then as I've had more kids, it continues to be fun, but it's definitely more of a challenge, especially like to get everybody skiing, to carry all the stuff. Like the challenge grows with more kids. With one, it was kind of sweet. It was like a sweet spot.
Meanwhile, Izzy's like, hey, it's not that easy, okay?
Well, no. I hang out with Tessa enough. I know I can't complain about anything.
Yeah, so that leads me to my next question and what connected me with you too. You are the subjects of a documentary called Motherload, and which Izzy, you wrote and produced, and your sister directed and edited, and Tessa and Izzy, you are the subjects of it. And I want to talk, what is then the Motherload? Like, what does that mean to you, and what does that mean to the people watching, who are going to watch the documentary? Start with you, Izzy.
Well, the Motherload, the initial concept of the Motherload was just like, I was going into my second year of skiing with my son Knox, and the first year I just found it so hilarious, like how much work it is to get your kid out skiing. And I was like, this is crazy. Like the equation here just doesn't add up. Why do we do this to ourselves? But it's like anyone who kind of like recreates in the mountains gets it. It's like type 2 fun. We have this weird like affection for it, and so, and it's kind of similar with taking your kids out skiing. And so, yeah, the whole idea initially was that we just create some like fun vignette that showcases like how absurd it is that we do all this work to get our kids out skiing, and then show how rewarding it is and everything. And then as we got into the film, there are so many layers to the film, and we realized there's a lot more of a story to be told here. And the mother load, the concept of the mother load isn't just the load of like the bag that you have to pack up and get into the car and get to the ski hill and carrying your kids around. There's a load that's beyond that in parenting and in being in the mountains, and that's like the emotional load of being a parent, the psychological load, all of that. Just always thinking for your children, thinking about what the right thing is for them. If you're doing it right, if you're doing it wrong, there's like so much to it, and it weighs on you constantly as a parent, whether you're aware of it or not. And so, yeah, that's kind of the mother load. It's like it encompasses all things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely got that in the documentary. I have 18-month-old twins, actually, and I haven't taken them skiing yet. I do want to get them into it because it was a part of my life since I was about 4 or 5, I think. And I know, but anything we do outdoors, like even sometimes going for a hike, I'm like, I got the backpacks, and then, got all the snacks, and we got a dog too, and I'm tying the dog to the waistband of my backpack, and you're loading it all up. But watching that with skiing, I mean, even for myself to go skiing sometimes, or my wife and I go or whatever, it's like still 120-liter duffel bag full of stuff thrown into the back of the car. But watching this documentary and seeing the two of you with a total of 4 kids of different ages, all the skis, massive duffels, and there's that great shot when you're walking across from your car to the bottom of the gondola, and it's just, you're right, it's absurd the amount of stuff that you're hauling, but it's this cool metaphor for what you're doing as well, that it is that physical nature of like literally physically hauling all this stuff. But I guess like you're saying, like the mother load is actually, it's the emotional load more than anything else. And it really came across very well in the film. I found it very emotional to watch. Tessa, we talked about that right before Izzy came on, that I think some of the responses, the positive responses that you've gotten has because it is very emotionally powerful, and it comes across very well. So I can appreciate, even as a father, I get the mother load. I didn't feel at all excluded by that whatsoever.
It definitely transcends, like it's mothers, fathers. I think we all feel that load of being a parent. So,
do you look at this, like we were saying before, and your careers as skiers and the adventures you went on when you were younger, and now going up to you were at Kicking Horse for the film, I believe, for at least part of it anyway. And you've got all the kids, and you're on the magic carpet, and you're on the bunny hill, and you're, getting them fed and stuff like that. How do you reconcile sort of that yearning for big mountain skiing and for adventure and for going into the backcountry with just knowing that, you're going to spend a big portion of the day on the bunny hill? Like maybe Tessa, you could speak to that a little bit about how you sort of reconcile that, be at peace with that, be accepting of that new outlook on skiing and on adventure?
Well, I think that's a really big thing for me that as becoming a parent, I had to face, and that I feel like I've really embraced, to figure out what season it is that you are in life, what's possible, what you can do, and dive in full on and enjoy it. Get the best out of it, figure out how to make it the most amount of fun, figure out how to make it work the best for you, for your family, for what everybody needs, and really do your best to let go of what you can't do and what is out of your grasp and out of your reach. And so for me right now, the reality is when I go skiing, I'm skiing with all my kids, and that's what it is. We spend a lot of time on the bunny hill. I carry kids around. They're sleeping. I'm carrying a sleeping baby. I'm like, that's just what it is. And the more I find I embrace it and laugh about it and enjoy it and find things to smile about it and just say, you know what, this is what it is for right now. This is the season of life. And I'm going to love this. And I do. I actually have a blast skiing with my kids. I love it. I absolutely love it. But the more I can just dive right into that and let go of what I'm not doing, the easier it is on you, I think. And then the easier it is on your kids too, because they feel you engaging in what you're doing and not, wishing you were somewhere else. Or
So it's all about being present and mindful and grateful, I guess, too, for what you have.
Absolutely. I found that was a big thing with parenting. Even Dave and I used to go on lots of surf trips before. And then when we had kids, we brought Casper on a surf trip, and it was just a disaster at first. And then we had to rethink. We're like, wait a minute. Okay, it doesn't mean we can never go on another surf trip. Our surf trips just have to look differently. And it's kind of the same with skiing. It doesn't mean we're done skiing. We're going to continue to ski. It's just going to look different. And the more you can embrace that different, it makes life so much easier for you.
Yeah, that's interesting. It also must be about setting expectations as well. Like mentioning the surf trip, to think like you went on one and it was all about, like surfing and like catching, I don't know how well you surf, but catching as big a wave as you can, as much a wave, getting out there at the crack of dawn, really just like sending it. And then you go there with your kid and you think like, oh, we'll do that with our kid now. And it's like, no, that's not what it's about anymore. Now it's about like having fun and making sure everyone's happy and things like that. And I totally understand that. And I think setting expectations is a big part of that for me as well. And realizing what we're really there to accomplish. Like if I go hiking with our 18-month-old twins in our backpacks, is it about getting to the summit? Or is it just about walking around a little bit,
Totally. And when you change your expectations, it's not always low. It's not, I wouldn't even say lowering your expectations, but changing your expectations, then you, I think, can feel really satisfied and really like, that was a successful day. That was fun. Instead of like always looking to what you used to do or what other people are doing, or, like you just have to let go of that, because our lives are all so different. And we can't compare our lives with somebody else's, because we all have we all carry a different load. So no point.
Would you agree with that, Izzy?
Totally. Yeah. I think, changing your expectations and just I think really just being present in what you're in. And, for me, I only have one kid, so it's easier for me to sometimes leave him with, someone and go out for the day. And those days like where it's me in the mountains with friends, ski touring or whatever, they're much fewer and further between these days, but I appreciate them like so much more. And I find I don't need it every single day to like feed that hunger for it. I get it. And then that satisfies me for a bit. And I really appreciate it. And then I so appreciate the days I'm back on the bunny hill too, because like, it's funny. I don't know. As a parent, it's so crazy. You're like, oh, I just want a break from my kids. And then you get a break and you spend the whole day like talking about them or thinking about them, And so
I feel like that's the hugest irony of being a parent, that like you literally want to get away from them. And then when you're away from them, all you do is miss them. It's like the most bizarre thing.
You're like, I'm just going to check on them, make sure they're okay. Yeah, it's wild. So, but I think exactly the shifting of expectations, even in making the film, like Tessa and I have done so much filming in the past, and, we know what it's all about. And I like had to make it very clear to the whole crew. I mean, Tessa knew what she was getting herself into, but we had a filmer who had never really spent time with kids before. And so I had to like very clearly, lay out what the expectations were and like all the things that could delay us or push us off schedule, and just like expect to be slow, not get that much done in a day, and, but have lots of fun.
And all those things happened and more.
Totally.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. That didn't occur to me when I was watching it. I was so caught up in like the idea of what you were doing, going skiing with the kids, that it never actually occurred to me that you were, to think about the filming process with the children as well. So you're almost like getting it from both sides when you're doing this. That's interesting. About the being mindful and grateful, like it really comes through towards the end of the film. I feel like that message is very powerful. But another powerful message throughout the entire film is grief. Tessa, you lost your husband, the Dave that you've been referring to, Dave Treadway, of course, a very well-known skier. And Izzy, in the beginning of the film, you also set up that your marriage broke down, which is a profound loss as well, of a different kind. I just wondered, what role has skiing and outdoor adventure and this life played in the process of grief? Or has it played one? Maybe Tessa, you could start.
Yeah, I'm actually really seeing it right now. And I think it's played a huge role. I see it especially in my oldest son, Casper. He has I mentioned in the movie, he's been really like angry and sad. And this winter, he's like a different kid. Since we started skiing again, he is happy and so much fun. He even stopped and told me one day, Mom, I got my joy back and I'm not going to let it go. And like he
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh, I feel like unbelievable. It feels so good. And I think a really big part of it is just, well, the freedom he experiences on the mountain and then being free to have fun. You know, I think sometimes when you are grieving, there's this feeling like you should be sad and you need to, you kind of like, you sort of get stuck in this, well, just like everything's a little darker. You know what I mean? Like everything's a little heavier and a little bit darker, and every conversation is a little bit heavier than it should be. And like everything just has some heaviness to it and carries a weight to it. And where I see it on all my kids and myself, the second we go skiing, it's just playing and it's light and fun and easy. And I think spending time in that place of just feeling light and happy has been like huge for us. I can't even say how big. Like it's so big. It's amazing to watch, especially Casper, just like come back to life. And
giving yourself the permission to feel joy as well, right?
Totally. And even the fact, like, I know it's a hard, like, because skiing was the thing that took his dad, it would be an easy thing too, to kind of shut skiing out of his life. You know what I mean? Or like,
yes,
absolutely. And I see that with Dave's parents, they don't want to have anything to do with skiing or think about skiing or like, because that's what took their son. And so I feel like, well, it's a real gift that we can continue to enjoy it. And then it's also a place where I feel like we can all connect with Dave too, in kind of a fun way. You know, that we have so many good memories as a family skiing together and playing together on the mountain. And so those memories kind of come back to life too. And it's just like a beautiful, happy, and a lighter place. It's good.
That's an interesting relationship to have with skiing that I hadn't considered watching the film. The idea that it could both help heal your family, help bring back joy and connectivity between you, and be a source of great memories with their dad and with your husband, but also have that connection that it is also what caused his death. It must be very complicated in a lot of ways to think about. How do you approach that for, you know, if you're going out into the backcountry, if you do that much anymore or whatever, or that mindset that you must have of maybe an added sense of caution or just awareness of what that means?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know what? I don't even ski in the backcountry anymore.
Okay.
I was in an avalanche quite a few years ago, and really like that was my first real sense of what, you know, until like you hear about it, but until you kind of experience something, it's hard to really grasp the reality of what the mountains can do to your life. And then obviously losing Dave was like, well, yeah, huge. Yeah. But it's just not even, like I said, kind of the same thing about adapting and accepting where you're at. And for me right now, I know being in the backcountry, there's an amount of risk that you have to assume, no matter how educated you are, no matter what you ski, no matter how much wisdom you use, being in the backcountry, you assume a risk. And that is a risk that at this point, being a single mom with 3 little kids who have just gone through something really gnarly, that is not a risk that I am willing to assume. I love to ski, but I love them more.
Yeah, no, that's good assessment. And what about you, Izzy, in terms of how recreation has it helped you grow and your family sort of continue on and find joy after a profound change in a different way?
Yeah, for sure. I think going through a divorce is a loss. Like it's a loss of, you know, your whole concept of family and maybe a future you imagined and stuff like that. And for me, skiing and just being in the mountains, like provided this connection that helped me heal so much. And it was a connection to like the most amazing community of people that I've ever met. Like all my closest friends have been people that I've connected with in the mountains. And so that community is so huge. Connection to nature, like just being able to immerse yourself in nature is really healing, I find. And then skiing's also provided me like with a connection to meaningful work. I think it's allowed me to do things that really like feed my soul. And I heard this quote the other day, and it was take your broken heart and turn it into art. And skiing has provided an avenue to like filmmaking for me. So when my marriage was basically like dissolving was when I was in the midst of making my first film with my sister called Kindred. And just having that project really, like having that creative outlet, it really allowed me to kind of dive into something. And I immersed myself in it and found it really healing to like, take all these emotions and create something beautiful out of it. And same with Motherload as well. I think just having a creative outlet is really important for me. And it's cool because skiing has provided me with that creative outlet. So,
yeah, so many different ways skiing has shaped both of your lives. In all types of different ways. It's interesting too to watch the documentary and see the Motherload as it starts and really gets into the Motherload, the emotional side of it, the physical side of it, and then to see that the way skiing, despite the fact that it actually in some ways increases the Motherload, it actually releases it as well. That's kind of the message that I got too. And I don't know, do you feel that way, that all that getting up early, staying up late, getting prepared, dragging the gear, dealing with the tears and all that stuff, that it is ultimately absolutely worth it because it is actually what releases the load in the end?
Yeah. It'd be easier to just sit at home, but then like, what would you do with all that energy? And, you wouldn't be connecting with people and nature and finding the joy and all of that. And so it's totally worth it.
It would probably be easy. I mean, obviously, it would be easier in a lot of ways, right? But then you wouldn't have that release. So it might actually be harder in the long term because you would never have. It would just be always heavy all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's why we do it for sure.
Speaking for myself, I've dealt with grief in my life as well, and now with kids, it keeps you so busy all the time that it can be both a help and a hindrance to that process. I find in that in some ways it takes your mind off it, but in some ways it doesn't allow you to actually work through it. And I wonder if being able to release the load, the Motherload, and get skiing can also not just bring joy but allow you to work through your grief as well when you're out skiing. Is that something you're finding, or is it more just a pure joy experience when you're out there rather than a part of the grieving process?
I don't know. It's all it's hard to know what really is going on inside sometimes. But I think one thing I've really, through the grief, I've noticed, I feel like I'm way more sensitive and aware. Like I have a heightened sensitivity to when there are moments of joy and moments of happiness and moments of just feeling light and everyone having fun together. And I find those moments bring hope. So they help with the grieving because they're in that moment you feel like, oh yeah, this feels normal again. This feels like extra good. Let's have more of this in our life. And yeah, skiing has obviously brings some of that, but I feel like that's for me, that's been a key to this whole grieving process, really, to really seek out those moments where you feel joy.
And I feel like sometimes that those joy is cumulative, if you just bring more into your life, it doesn't just go away as the moment passes, it builds in your life. And that's the way I feel anyway. So even if, you might get back into it afterwards and, the morning's good, but then you're back home and I don't know, the kids are driving you nuts or whatever, but that joy that you felt will still stay with you for a long period of time. When I look at both your families, you live in Golden and Revelstoke, and very outdoorsy. And there's shots around your home, Tessa, and there's that, I think it was a sign that says free range family, which I know is something been part of a lot of your messaging in previous clips and written works that I've seen. What do you think? What do you hope to instill in your families through this lifestyle, this outdoor recreation? Like, what do you hope that it leads to with them? Izzy, you can go first.
It's a good question.
Because it's fun and it's joyful, but beyond that, I mean.
Yeah, I think there's like a certain set of values that kind of underlie this lifestyle, and that's just like appreciating the simplicity of being together, being in the outdoors, how incredibly like impactful nature can be, and freedom to so I think by living this lifestyle, I just want my son to know that like life isn't all about achieving things and building wealth and like accomplishing stuff. It's like about I just think that simplicity is so important, and it's so easy to forget in the world that we live in. And really like family, nature, freedom, time spent together are the most important things. And that's what we get every time we go out on an adventure in the mountains, to the ocean, whatever it is. And so, I just hope he grows up like really feeling connected and appreciating those things in life.
Tessa, do you have anything to add to that, or is that
totally,
sort of?
I agree. The only other thing I was thinking is, it kind of I feel like it really gives us all the freedom for our lives to not really have to fit in a box, or to not fit the norm, or fit. There's just this huge. Our lives can look like so many different things, and I feel like this free range lifestyle, and spending so much time outside and in the mountains, really opens that up from feeling this is what my life has to look like, or this is where we have to go, and this is the school you have to go to, or whatever kind of pressures that you can feel. I feel like it really just opens that up and gives you, and I'm hoping gives my kids the space to see what truly makes them happy, what's really important in life, and that they can follow that and figure out their own niche and their own path, and how to impact the world around them with the things that make them really come alive. So
yeah, that's interesting though. That's an interesting take on it. To think that this free range life and being free in the mountains and free in outdoor recreation could lead to them feeling free in different facets of their life. Both of you touched on that. The idea that if I give you this sort of open world to play in, then you'll see the world more open. That's a positive, lasting effect beyond just healthy living and appreciation of nature. Yeah, I mean, it seems to have worked on you two, because it seems to be part of maybe how you were raised. A lot of outdoor, a lot of skiing, and it's very generational like that. Yeah,
that's one of the coolest things about skiing. I think is it's a lifelong sport, and it's a family sport, and so we can all appreciate it. Like I know Tessa skis with her dad a lot, and so the kids get to ski with their grandpa. That's so cool. And same with me. We ski with my mom all the time. She lives in Revelstoke as well, and just to see my mom in her mid-60s and my 3-year-old skiing together and having the best time together, it's so awesome.
I was very inspired because, like I said, I think I started skiing around, I don't really remember, about 4-ish. I think my parents said they tried to take me when I was 3, and it was like, I don't know, I just wanted to play in the lodge or something like that. I was kind of a weird kid. But by about 4, I started to actually move around. But I was very inspiring seeing. How young is your youngest, Tessa, in the film anyway?
Well, he wasn't really skiing. It was more for fun. My kids were all just being like ding-dongs that day. No one was cooperating. Rafi was super
he had boots
sick.
On.
Totally. Rafi, the middle one, was really sick. We all think he had COVID, but
oh my gosh.
Well, we all think we all got it, but during the filming process, but yeah, so he wasn't skiing that day, and so I had all of his ski gear there, and Malto's just crawling around, and thought, oh, well, and Casper had a really bad attitude at that point. So I thought, okay, that's where you have to be super creative when everything's kind of going down the tube. Okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to have fun?
Yeah,
And so
that was very real.
we threw him in the ski boots and it worked. But I think he was 6 or 7 months in that shot.
Gosh, yeah. So I'm behind. With my 18-month-old. I actually thought, it was one of my favorite lines, probably my favorite line in the whole movie is when you're just calmly look over and you go, all right, stop calling everyone idiots and let's go on. And I just it resonated with me so well, this sort of like calm exasperation a little bit, but also just sort of acceptance of what is happening. And like, I think I've been that kid, and also I've seen that kid where you're just like calling everyone idiots and like everything's just going off the rails, and just that ability to be like, let's just go have some fun. Like, don't get so worked up about it. But at the same time, you can sense this sort of, I felt like you're almost like giving into the wave of it a little bit, like just sort of accepting what's happening, but also trying to help it along. But, just like, yeah, I just thought it was such a great moment. So maybe for sake of the storytelling, although it probably didn't make the filming any easier, his attitude that day probably helped the storytelling quite a bit, actually.
Oh, yeah. There was a lot going behind the scenes that day. Just meltdowns everywhere.
How old are your oldest? How old's your kid?
He's 3.5.
And how old is your oldest, Tessa?
Now he is 7, so he was 6.
Okay.
When we were filming.
So super young, which I obviously comes across. I'm sure they've watched it. How your 6-year-old, 7-year-old, has he made any comments about it, or what has he said about it, or is it just kind of cool to see the the family skiing or whatever?
Yeah, he's quite well. We've made so many little videos and throughout his life, so he's quite used to seeing himself on videos. And but and he kind of feels like a little celebrity at times, I think.
Yeah, I bet.
But
and what do you think he will think of it too? Like what do you think?
Yeah.
10 years from now, 20 years from now, I don't know.
It's interesting because right now, like watching the film, I asked him, like, what do you think? How does this make you feel? What do you think people are going to think about this? And he was excited because he thought it might help people who are going through a hard time to feel like we've also gone through a hard time and that it's going to be okay. That's how he kind of felt about it. And I'm interested to see as he grows, because our life is quite, I feel sometimes like our life is quite on display for lots of people. And I don't want to, I feel like I don't want to tell the kids, tell their story that's not mine to tell. You know what I mean? I can tell my story and where I'm at, but I don't want to put things, I don't want to share their story too much because it's not my story to tell. It's their story. And there's
Absolutely,
so
I
little.
understand, yeah.
And so I feel like it's kind of a fine balance. But at this point, I know Casper really feels like, he even said it. He said he feels like his heart has grown to, when he sees people having a hard time, his heart has grown to feel sad for them and to want to help them, because he knows what it feels like to have sad thoughts and to feel really sad. And so he wants to help people who are in that same position or in a similar position. And so I think he sees it. I kind of explained the movie to him that way, that it's an opportunity to maybe encourage people, and he sees it that way right now. So who knows what the future holds, but
yeah. And Izzy, when you and your sister decided to make this, was the three of you decided together, or was you and your sister decided to do it, or how did that come to be?
I think so Zoya likes to just tell me that I like tell her to do a lot of things. And so I think I told her we were making another film. And then, and then we're always like, my sister and I we're very close. We're extremely close. And we're always bouncing project ideas back and forth. And I think that we chatted a little bit about this one. And then I sent a text to Zoya and Tessa one day saying, Motherload film, like, this is what we need to do and let's make it happen. And everyone was on board. And then it just kind of like evolved from there. Yeah. So.
And so what do you help people take from it when they see the film? Which I should say is you can watch it on YouTube right now. Google Motherload Arc'teryx Motherload,
Yeah.
Izzy, Motherload, Tessa. Yeah. What do you hope people will take from it?
I think just like encouragement that like Tessa always says, and she said this a lot when we were filming, and I just think it's the most powerful thing that like hard doesn't necessarily mean bad. Things are bad. Like things are hard right now. If you have young kids, whether you've gone through a loss or not, like things are hard for you right now. But that doesn't mean they're bad in the big picture. And I hope people see that in the film. That like even though things are tough, or were tough for us, or are continuously tough in the film, you know, like there's still moments of joy and moments of freedom in each day, and you have to be present to notice those. And I think, yeah, one thing that I really took away from the film is like there are two things in my life that really force me to be in the present moment, and that's my kid and skiing. And I'm so grateful for those things, because like you have to just be in the moment, and quite often the moment's quite beautiful if you stop and take note.
If you're willing to look at it. I won't give away too much in the film, because I think as it builds is really important to watch it fresh. But towards the end, I feel like it does end on a quite a high note, and I maybe think sometimes when I'm watching that and thinking like, you know, you have a life. You had a life before you two met, and then you were friends, and then you two got married, and then the kids, and then you both suffered losses. And you know, when is it possible to know, like, you know, when you're the happiest or when the best times are? Or sometimes I was watching the film, and by the time I thought about that, there's this great moment at the end, and it has like this really high note. But I think like what are the best times of our lives? And I don't know. Do you ever think about how can you only look at that in retrospect, or is it ever possible to know at the time? That's a big question, I know. How about we start with you, Tessa? It's a huge philosophical question that I'm just putting you on the spot to answer right now.
Okay, I got it. I actually have the answer.
It's a perfect answer.
Get ready. No, I don't have the answer. I'm guessing it like hindsight is 2020, and it'll be easy to look back. And because you hear so many people say that, like when your kids are young, enjoy that time. Like people whose kids have grown up, and they're saying, oh, enjoy that time. Those are the hardest years, but they're the best years. And when you're in the middle of it, especially as a single parent, it's like, frig, they are the hardest years for sure. And it's hard to always see that they are the best years. But I don't know, just taking that advice and trying to say like, this is good. You know, like we have this giant king size bed, and all of us pile in it at night, and it's like, whew, not a whole lot of room in here. This is kind of tight. And then I try and tell myself like, but this is beautiful. This is good. Like, this is what my kids need. This is what, like, this is the best. This is the best. In 20 years from now, I'm going to think, oh, where's those little sweet little bodies who want to snuggle up to me? Like, they're gone. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you.
Yeah. Maybe there is no such thing. You know, maybe it is what it is at the time that it is, and that's enough. I don't know.
And probably the more, like, kind of the same thing I said before, but with everything, the more you can be present and change your expectations and be in the moment, I think the happier we are in life.
What do you think, Izzy? Agree?
Yeah.
Something else?
I think you can't get too caught up in thinking like about what a certain best time in life is, because then it's like, well, if I've already had that, is it all downhill from here? I think our values and our expectations and everything changes as we grow older. And so hopefully we're creating the best time for right now continuously as we grow. Yeah, I think funny, I was thinking about this as Tessa was talking though, similarly to like how often you look back and you think, oh, that was so good. Tess, do you ever look back and think, oh man, that was gnarly? But like you were just in it because you had the 3 kids, and you can't even think about how hard it is because you just have to put one foot in front of the other to get through it. But sometimes you look back 6 months and you're like, oh, I'm sure you do from like a year ago. You're like, that was a tough time, but I couldn't even allow myself to feel how hard it was in the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting, different perspectives too from the family. Something funny that happened to me the other day. My brother and I were talking about this family camping trip we took. I don't know why it came. It was just totally random. Like I was maybe 8 years old or something like that to Wass Lake on Vancouver Island. And my brother's like, and do you remember it was such a disaster, and just listed all these things that went wrong and how our parents were like fighting over it and stuff like that. And I was just like, no. I was like, I was totally shocked. I was like, I have nothing but fond memories of that trip. I don't know. I didn't know what he was talking about. And I thought it was totally fascinating to me that he viewed that trip as some kind of big disaster. And I viewed it as completely the opposite. And how that sort of, it's not really a question per se, just a thought I had about the organic nature of how we view things that are happening around us, and maybe that something can change with time. Because maybe that opinion changed over the years, that he began to see it as a disaster years later, or maybe I did at the time and I don't anymore, or something like that. That it's all like these memories that we have and aren't set in stone at all. They tend to like be organic, not so much the actual things that happen, but the way we feel about them is ever changing, is the way I find.
Yeah,
anyway.
Or like it's where you're at in your life. Like again, like maybe, I don't know. Are you younger than your brother?
I am, yeah. I'm the
Yeah,
youngest of
so
three,
maybe you got ice cream and you got to go on a cool bike ride and you were like, sweet, this is all I want in the world. And if he's older and there's different things he cares about, then it wasn't the best time for him. It's like,
yeah.
It shows how like, as we get old, like for me, I can have the best day skiing on the bunny hill with my kid if it's sunny and there are people around and we're having a great time. But like 10 years ago, I would have been like, this is the most boring day of my life. Why am I here? So I think our what we want changes. And
Definitely. Like I said, I haven't taken my kids up skiing, but about 4 years ago, my wife had only been skiing a couple times in her life, and about 4 or 5 years ago, she decided to, she wanted to start doing that, and I didn't. It was funny. We went up, and she's like, okay, so how do you ski? We literally got off the chairlift, and she's like, how do you do this? And I'm like, huh. I never really thought about how. I hadn't, I'd been skiing, and so, but then I started. She kept feeling bad. She's like, "You're just on like the green with me all day. This is like gotta be so boring for you." And I'm like, honestly, I can't tell you that it is really, really, really not. I'm having like a blast right now, and I don't think she ever believed me. But I was like, I really am. I had a great time. Just I don't know. My expectations had changed. Whereas, probably 10 years earlier, I would have been like, all right, well, just point him downhill and I'm going off on this other side. And maybe maturity brings that too, as well.
Yeah, definitely.
What type of feedback have you gotten from people? Now, we say like, what did you want people to take from the film? What have you heard that people did take? What kind of feedback have you gotten? Izzy, we can start with you since you were involved more in the production.
Yeah, the feedback has been really incredible. It's actually been so moving. Like I've sat down a couple times to read the comments on YouTube, and a bunch of them have brought me to tears. I think people are really connecting with it more than we ever even imagined. And the coolest feedback that I've received has been from people who are like not parents, don't have kids, or never have wanted kids. Or I've had a few people reach out saying, I'm not having kids. I've never, felt a maternal instinct or anything, but I just so appreciated the message in that film and, was captivated by it. And so that's really cool because, it's captivating a large audience, and it's not just mommy content. We wanted something that people would relate to. And I think people are relating because, even if they don't have kids, they had parents that maybe brought them in the outdoors, and it makes them reflect on that, the work that their parents did to get them out there. And I found that really, really neat to see.
Yeah, I scrolled through the comments just to see myself, and there are hundreds of them. And you go down, and people are like, for YouTube comments, people are like really getting very personal and really saying, I can understand why you would have felt that way from some of the comments. It is a very emotional film to watch. The first time I watched it, I was quite overtaken with emotion. I think as a parent myself, and as I can understand why people are saying that. And Tessa, what about you? What have you heard? Because it's a different perspective for you too, because you're the subject, and obviously you probably had some involvement in the production, but not in this quite the same way, if I'm understanding that correctly, as Izzy and Zoya.
Absolutely. Well, I think when I first saw the film, I felt like, that's pretty heavy. But I don't know how you could make it not heavy, because our lives our lives have been heavy. So I think my hope was that I wanted it to encourage people and not make people, the last thing I wanted was for people to feel sorry for us or to feel sorry for me. And so I was like, I wonder what it's going to be. I wonder what people are actually going to take from it. And I have been super encouraged by all the feedback, because I have not felt that once, that feeling sorry. But I feel like people, they haven't felt sorry, they felt connected. And a lot of people who have felt seen in a way that they didn't expect to feel, I guess, seen while watching a ski movie. And I think encouragement has been the biggest thing, that people have felt encouraged that hard isn't bad, and that it's okay to be like, it's okay to do hard things, and that we have the strength to do them. And I've been super encouraged by it. It's been awesome to see how it's resonated with people.
I think it's made people feel not alone. Like, certain people have watched it and they've felt less alone too, which is really cool, because maybe they don't have a Tessa to talk about how, hard it is or what's going on. They don't have a close friend or a close network. And so they are seeing, themselves reflected in the film, and that just helps them feel like less alone.
Yeah, for sure. And it was there was little touches in the film that I really appreciated. There was this one, it was this, maybe it was nothing at all. Maybe you won't even know what I'm talking about, Izzy, but it was you. You're getting out of the Golden Eagle Express at Kicking Horse, and you get caught up on the gondola as you walk out. And I just, like, I love that moment, because it was like, there you are, like this professional skier, you've probably been there a million times, you've skied all over the place, and like you're getting like caught up on the gondola like some tourist who's never been skiing before. And sorry, I mean, you know what I mean?
No,
But
it's true.
and I made me laugh, because I'm like, it was something so relatable about that moment, that it's like, it's hard for everyone. It's hard. You might look at you and be like, yeah, but they're, experts, and they've done this. They live in these mountain towns. They've done this a million times. Can I really do it? And then just sort of seeing you sort of like fumble like that for a second, it was such this great relatable moment that I'm like, yeah, I do stuff like that all the time. Like, trip over my ski poles or something dumb like that. And yeah, I don't know. There was just something so great and relatable about that moment. And there were a few moments like that in the film that had these intimate moments where it's like, it's hard for you too, like, it's not like this isn't a film about you showing off about how like you can manage your kids on the hill and look how awesome we are. It's hard. But I, like you keep saying, Tessa, that hard isn't bad. I hadn't really thought of that exact expression, but I it does come across, and it is a good, I think, for anyone who's a parent or going through anything or has any kind of load to bear, to try and tell yourself that, because sometimes it is just hard, and you're like, oh, this is hard, but hard isn't bad. I'm going to try and remember that. I'm going to try and keep that in mind when I'm putting my kids to bed or something like that. They're like, hard isn't bad. Hard isn't bad. Okay. This is just hard. It's not going to kill you, Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
Doesn't mean my life is bad.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
means this moment is hard.
Yeah, I think that's a good message. Good message to take. When you saw it, when you both watched it, final cut, what do you think about sharing these intimate moments like that? From anything like what I just said about you, sort of like getting caught up on the gondola, or Tessa at your house in the morning scene when your baby's clearly, he's crying and you're trying to soothe them and getting everything together. It's a quick vignette of that, but it is intimate. And were you totally comfortable with that?
Yeah, I think so. I was. I felt like we have an opportunity here. I can choose to sit in our sadness and grief and keep it all inward focused on us and our challenges and our whatever. Or it felt like this movie was a bit of an opportunity to direct some of that outward and to offer, hopefully, hope for people. And just by kind of exposing the rawness of where we're at, that life isn't perfect. There are tons of challenges. And so I kind of felt like it was a bit of a kind of an honor and like an opportunity to really change the focus from inward to as like kind of something to offer to other people.
Yeah, it seems like I was wondering watching the Motherload documentary, and thinking, is there more to come from this concept? Now that you're out there and you've seen that people really it resonated with people, like I was saying, Izzy, before you came on, that as of this morning, this is the end of January, it's about 245,000 views, and it built from yesterday. I watched it yesterday and today and a bunch of times before that, and it was about 3,000 views in about 24 hours, so it's still steaming along, and tons of comments and tons of good feedback. I was wondering, have you thought about any more to come from this Motherload concept, or is this, you've put it out there, you've done what you want to do with it, and the next film, the next project is going to be something different?
Yeah, we've definitely talked about trying to do a few more little like a web series or something just about different adventures. I don't know. Like, I can't see us diving as deeply into the like backstory, but maybe showcasing adventuring in a different way with our kids, and maybe we can build off of what we started and actually get towards the just like absurd, showcase the funny, getting caught up in the gondola, unloading our car stuff. So we have chatted about that a little bit. So we'll see. I would love to. I love these projects. They're just, they take a lot to get off the ground, and yeah, but there's always, as I said, my sister and I are always brainstorming, and I'm always throwing ideas her way, and we just need to find some time and dive into it a little bit more.
Yeah, and as it's pretty clear in the documentary, finding the time is not always that easy, right? With everything going on.
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge for sure. Yeah, but yeah, it was so fun. I mean, again, like, it's so funny. At the time, it was actually horrendous. Like, it was so hard.
That's really interesting to hear that you say that.
We all cried every day. Yeah. But in that, like, it was tough. Our kids were all so sick. We were sick. Like, just the heaviness of the Treadway scenario, you could really feel it, like, at that time. It was still really, really raw. And it was the first time we had really spent like a consecutive days together since Dave had passed away. And you could feel the weight of it. But at the same time in that, I was so happy to be spending time with Zoya and Tessa. And like, we were so grateful for that time together, even though it was kind of a shit show.
Well, that's so funny that you keep saying, like, it does really speak to, like I said, the Motherload, it's like the three-way there. You've got the skiing, you've got the emotional, and then you've got your work Motherload, which is also like sort of, it's the Motherload that you're taking on while you're working is actually the skiing and the managing of the kids at that moment in time. So it's like this nice little package of like a triangle of hard work. but you did a very good job, because the final product was really, really good. And my wife hasn't seen it yet. I keep saying I'm gonna watch it with her, because I think she'd really like it as well and appreciate it. And I think it would inspire, because I know we both get caught up in, I don't know, for some reason skiing has been a bit of a hiccup for me in terms of like trying to wrap my head around getting our kids out skiing. But now I'm definitely more inspired, and it's a big topic.
It's hard when you're far.
It is, and 2 kids, like twins. You got your hands full.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, you need like a double harness.
I was wondering about that. I was eyeballing the gear too. I think one of the times through watching it, I was like, oh, those the I don't know, the thing that affixes the skis together. I'm like, that's a good one. I got to remember that one.
Those are key. You need that.
You know what? Actually, because we've busted so many of those edgy wedgies, they're called, that like keep the tips together. So for my last 2 kids, because with Casper we went through probably 10 of them, we just drilled holes in the tips of the skis and then tie a rope between the 2, and it doesn't break. And it has been awesome.
Yeah, I need to get acquainted with all, like, I know a lot about the adult gear, and then some of the young kids, but like baby gear, I don't know anything about. So I need to get acquainted with some of that. Oh, well, you know what? I've already taken more of your time than I said I was going to, but I really appreciate you spending some time with me today and talking about what are some pretty heavy topics. And so I definitely appreciate it. If there's anything you want to leave us with regarding the film, other than people should close this podcast and watch it.
Yeah, go check it out and then go outside.
Absolutely.
Take your kids outside.
It's threatening to snow here in Vancouver, and it hasn't. The mountains are getting more now, but It made me want to take my kids out in the snow, particularly.
Nice.
All right. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having us. It's great chatting with you.
I realized shortly after this interview that we chatted for an hour about a 14-minute film. That shows the depth and breadth of these topics and the layered storytelling within the Motherload documentary. There's a lot to unpack here, from the role of outdoor adventure in family life and in healing, to just the logistics of getting kids outside and what that means to them and to you. I hope you enjoyed this chat as much as I did. I hope you have watched or will watch Motherload. If you haven't, just search Motherload Arc'teryx in YouTube. It's 14 minutes well spent. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm David Webb, and hey, live the adventure.